Welcome to Elif's Kitchen. Today, I want to share with you a practical and easy chicken Sultan Kebab recipe, perfect for your dinner invitations. Peel one eggplant in a striped pattern and cut it into small cubes. Soak it in salted water for about 10 minutes, then drain it well. Drizzle 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil over it and mix well to coat evenly. I fried them in an air fryer, but you can also deep fry them in hot oil if you prefer. Add 2 to 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil to a pan. I asked the butcher to chop a total of 800 grams of mixed chicken breast and boneless thigh into small cubes. Add the chicken to the pan and sauté over high heat until it changes color. As you can see, the chicken has changed color and started releasing its own juices. At this stage, cover the pan. Let it cook over medium heat for 10 to 15 minutes, stirring occasionally, until it absorbs most of its liquid. As you can see, most of the liquid has evaporated, and only a little remains. I uncovered the pan and let the rest of the liquid evaporate over high heat. Once fully evaporated, add 1 tablespoon of butter and 1 finely chopped onion. Sauté over medium heat until the onion softens. Add 1 tablespoon of tomato paste and continue sautéing for a few more minutes. Add 1 cup of canned or frozen peas. Then, add the fried eggplants. Add 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon each of red pepper flakes and thyme, and 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. Mix well and let it cook over low heat for another 3 to 4 minutes before removing from heat. I used a total of 2 fresh, daily yufka sheets. Cut each yufka into 4 equal pieces. Place one of the pieces over a bowl. Tear small pieces from the sides and place them in the center. Then, add some of the prepared chicken filling and fold the edges of the yufka over it, as shown in the video. Flip it over and remove it from the bowl. Place them in a greased rectangular baking dish. Repeat the process for the remaining pieces. For the bechamel sauce, melt 2 tablespoons of butter in a pan. Add 1.5 tablespoons of flour and sauté for a few minutes until the raw flour smell disappears. At first, I added 1.5 cups of milk, but it seemed a bit thick, so I added a little more milk. In total, I used about 2.5 cups of milk. The bechamel sauce should have a slightly runny consistency. Add 1 teaspoon of salt and mix well. Simmer the bechamel sauce over low heat for 2 to 3 minutes, then remove from heat. Pour it evenly over each prepared portion. Then, place it in a preheated oven at 190 degrees Celsius and bake on a lower rack until lightly golden, for about 20 to 25 minutes. As you can see, it has lightly browned. Remove from the oven and sprinkle about 100 grams of grated cheddar cheese on top. Also, sprinkle a bit of red paprika powder and return to the oven. Bake for another 10 to 15 minutes until the cheese melts and turns slightly golden. Remove from the oven and serve hot. I hope you try it and like it. Enjoy in advance to those who will give it a try. Today, I want to share with you an easy-to-make, crispy, and delicious dessert, walnut kadaif in a cup. Let's start by preparing the syrup. Take 3 cups of sugar into a saucepan. Add 3 cups of water to it. Squeeze the juice of 1 slice of lemon and add it in. Place the saucepan on the stove and stir occasionally until the sugar dissolves. Once it starts boiling, let it simmer on low heat for 15 minutes, then remove it from the stove. I used 50 grams of butter and margarine mixed together. Let's melt the butter. To give you an exact measurement, I poured the melted butter into a glass. As you can see, it's about a finger width less than a full glass. Let's top it up with vegetable oil until it reaches a full glass. Separate 500 grams of kebab strands as shown in the video. No need to break them into small pieces, just loosen them enough to separate the strands. Then pour the melted butter mixture over them. Mix well to ensure all the strands are evenly coated with butter. I used a Turkish coffee cup to shape the dessert, but you can also use a small bowl. Take a portion of kebab. Open it with your hands. And place it inside the cup, as shown in the video. Then, add a heaping teaspoon of walnuts in the middle. Cover the top with more kebab and press it down firmly with your fingers, as shown in the video. Press firmly with your fingers while twisting. Press and twist to remove the dessert from the cup. This method makes it tighter and gives it a better shape. I didn't flip it upside down to remove it. If you flip it, it will be looser. Place the desserts into a previously greased rectangular baking dish. Arrange them with slight gaps in between. Bake in a preheated oven at 175 to 180 degrees Celsius, placing it just below the middle rack, until the tops turn golden brown. In my oven, it took 35 minutes to bake. Remove the dessert from the oven. Let it sit for about 5 minutes to slightly cool down. Then, pour the warm syrup over the hot dessert. The consistency of the syrup is very important to keep the dessert crispy. Make sure to boil it for the right amount of time to achieve a thick syrup. This is a crucial tip. If the syrup is too thin, the dessert will become soft. Even the next day, my desserts remained crispy and delicious. Let them absorb the syrup for about 2 hours. The desserts have absorbed the syrup and cooled down. I topped each piece with a teaspoon of clotted cream and garnished them with ground pistachios. You can add clotted cream and pistachios during the serving stage. Our crispy desserts are ready to be served. Today, I want to share with you an incredibly delicious recipe that you will want to make all the time. I want to share the kaselaban recipe from Lebanese cuisine. Let's thoroughly wash 1 kilo of zucchini and cut off the stems and root ends as shown in the video. It is better to use short and slightly chubby zucchinis. To prevent the zucchinis from cracking while hollowing them, take a small amount of salt in a tea saucer as shown in the video. Dip the stem-cut side of the zucchini into the salt and set it aside. Salt all the zucchinis and hollow them out, leaving them slightly thick. Unlike stuffed vegetables, do not hollow them out too thin. They should be slightly thicker than usual. I peeled the skins of the zucchinis using the serrated part of a vegetable corer. You can also do this with a serrated knife or leave the zucchinis unpeeled. Wash the peeled zucchinis and dry them with a paper towel. Heat about 1 to 1.5 cups of vegetable oil in a wide pan. Add the zucchinis and fry them, turning them over so they brown evenly. Be careful during frying, as the oil may splatter a bit. Drain the fried zucchinis and place them on a paper towel-lined plate. as shown in the video. Drain the excess water and oil from the inside of the zucchinis by turning them over. And let them cool. For the filling, add 2 to 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil to a pan. Add 1 packet, about 15 to 20 grams, of pine nuts. Roast until they turn a light pink color. Then, remove the roasted pine nuts from the pan, leaving the oil behind, and set them aside. Add about 250 grams of medium-fat ground beef to the same oil and cook it while pressing and stirring continuously until its color changes. Sauté the ground beef until it absorbs its own juices. Add 2 medium-sized finely chopped onions. Sauté for a few minutes until the onions soften. Add 1 to 2 cloves of finely chopped garlic and continue sautéing. For extra flavor, I added a tablespoon of butter. If your ground beef is fatty, you can skip adding butter. Add 1 heaping teaspoon of red pepper powder, 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Add the previously roasted pine nuts, mix well, and remove from heat. You can skip the cinnamon if you prefer, but I recommend trying it at least once because it pairs wonderfully. Once the ground beef mixture has slightly cooled, use a teaspoon to press and fill the zucchinis. Alternatively, you can use your hands for easier filling. Press while filling to ensure they are packed with stuffing. Fill all the zucchinis and set them aside while preparing the yogurt sauce. In a wide pot, add 3 cups of yogurt. If you have homemade yogurt, it will taste even better. Add about 1/4 teacup of flour. Whisk with a wire whisk until smooth. Gradually add water while stirring continuously. I added a total of 1.5 cups of water. The consistency should be like thick iron. A yogurt-based drink. Place the pot on the stove and stir constantly until it starts to boil. Do not stop stirring to prevent curdling. Once it starts boiling, add 1 to 2 cloves of grated garlic and about 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Squeeze the juice of 1/4 of a lemon over it and mix. Add the stuffed zucchinis to the boiling yogurt mixture. Let it cook over low heat with the lid open for about 15 to 20 minutes, turning the zucchinis occasionally, until they soften. While the dish is cooking, let's prepare the butter sauce. Melt about 1 tablespoon of butter. After turning off the heat, add a teaspoon of dried mint and 1/2 teaspoon of red ground pepper. Then mix. I cook the dish for about 20 minutes. Pour the prepared butter sauce over it and remove it from the stove. I'm sure that once you try it, even someone who doesn't like zucchini will love it. This dish will become one of your favorites. It is now ready to be served. Transfer the dish to a serving plate, drizzle plenty of yogurt sauce over it, and serve hot. I want to share an Izmir kofta recipe. Take half a kilo of medium-fat ground beef into a mixing bowl. Add 1 grated onion. Add 1 grated clove of garlic. Add 1 egg. Add 1 teaglass of breadcrumbs or stale breadcrumbs. Add 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of red pepper flakes, and half a teaspoon of thyme. Add half a teaspoon of cumin and 1 teaspoon of black pepper. You can adjust the amount of salt and spices according to your taste. I added 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil. Knead the mixture well. If you like, you can also add finely chopped parsley at this stage, but I didn't use it. The better you knead the meatballs, the tastier they will be. Knead for at least 5 to 6 minutes. If you have time, cover and refrigerate the mixture overnight for a better flavor. If you're short on time, refrigerating for 3 to 4 hours will also be sufficient. I didn't refrigerate it because I didn't have time. Wet your hands occasionally and take slightly larger than walnut-sized pieces. To shape the meatballs more easily, wet your hands occasionally and form them into finger-shaped meatballs, as shown in the video. Once all the meatballs are shaped, cover them and refrigerate while preparing the potatoes. I used about 3 medium potatoes, approximately half a kilo. You can increase the amount if you prefer. Slice them into wedges using a crinkle cutter. Then place them in a strainer and rinse them. Pat them dry on a clean towel. Heat plenty of vegetable oil in a pan and add the potatoes. Fry them, turning occasionally, until they are lightly golden. If you prefer, you can bake them in the oven instead of frying. Transfer the fried potatoes onto a paper towel-lined plate. In the same pan, remove the excess oil, leaving about 3 to 4 tablespoons. Heat the pan slightly and place the meatballs in it. Sear the meatballs over high heat, turning them occasionally. At this stage, there's no need to fully cook them, just searing is enough. Transfer the lightly browned meatballs to a plate. Place the meatballs in a large round baking dish. Add the fried potatoes on top. Arrange them in the dish, alternating one meatball and one potato. I garnished the dish with cherry tomatoes and green peppers. Let's prepare the sauce. I used the same pan where I fried the meatballs. Add 1 heaping tablespoon of tomato paste to the remaining oil from the meatballs. Let's sauté until the smell of the tomato paste is released. I added 1½ cups of water because I didn't want it to be too watery. If you prefer it more liquid, you can add 2 to 2.5 cups of water. I added about a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of red pepper powder. If you like spicy food, you can increase the amount of red pepper powder. Let's boil our sauce for 1 to 2 minutes and then remove it from the heat. Pour it evenly over the dish. Bake in a preheated oven at 175 to 180 degrees Celsius, 350 to 360 degrees Fahrenheit, for about half an hour. Since I didn't want the top to brown too much, I covered it with parchment paper after about 15 to 20 minutes. You can do the same if needed. Once cooked, remove from the oven and serve hot. As you can see in the video, it turned out perfectly and is incredibly delicious. I hope you try it and like it too. Bon appétit to those who will try it. Today, I want to share with you a delicious portion-sized mushroom gratin recipe that mushroom lovers will adore. I have about 600 grams of mushrooms. Let's quickly rinse them under running water. Then, as you can see in the video, chop them into medium-sized pieces. Add 2 to 3 tablespoons of oil to a pan. Add 1 finely chopped onion and sauté until slightly softened. Add 4 to 5 finely chopped green peppers with the seeds removed. Remove the seeds from 2 medium-sized red peppers, chop them into small cubes, and add them in. Continue sautéing until the peppers soften slightly. Then, add the chopped mushrooms. Sauté over high heat, stirring occasionally. I added about a teaspoon of salt and half a teaspoon of black pepper. Continue sautéing the mushrooms. As you can see, they release their own water. Keep sautéing until all the water evaporates. Once the water has evaporated, remove the mushrooms from the heat. I prepared them in portion-sized clay pots. Divide the mixture evenly. If you prefer, you can also use a large baking dish. As you can see, I evenly divided the mushrooms into 5 clay pots. While they rest, let's prepare the bechamel sauce. Melt 2 tablespoons of butter. Add 2 tablespoons of flour, not heaping. Sauté for a few minutes until the flour loses its raw smell. Then, slowly add milk while continuously stirring to prevent lumps. I added 2.5 cups of milk. The bechamel sauce should have a smooth, flowing consistency. If needed, you can add more milk. I added about a teaspoon of salt and half a teaspoon of black pepper. Simmer on low heat for a few minutes and then remove from the heat. Evenly distribute the bechamel sauce over the mushroom mixture in the clay pots. Then, sprinkle each one with a handful of grated cheddar cheese. Bake in a preheated oven at 200 degrees Celsius, 390 degrees Fahrenheit, until the cheese melts and slightly browns. In my oven, it took about 20 minutes for the top to brown. Remove from the oven and serve the gratins hot. I hope you try and enjoy this recipe. Bon appétit to those who will try it. If you've watched my video this far and liked it, you can support me by liking, commenting, and sharing.